Welcome, I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. Later, a little lesson on something called Bitcoin. Is it the currency of the future? But first, a look at 37 years of journalism in Colorado. Mark Koebrich from Channel 9, thanks for being here.
My pleasure. How are you?
I said welcome. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, right. Yes, yeah. Yeah, that progression is underway as well. But I can still see and hear you fairly well.
37 years, and almost all of it here in Denver for Channel 9.
Yeah, remarkable.
And that's just, I don't know if you know this, that doesn't happen anymore. I don't think it even happened when it happened. You know, that in your profession you do 2, maybe 3 years, you move to the next market, you go, you do it, and by the time you hit 40, you're out of there. Unless you're a woman, and then you only go until you're 28, and then you're out of there. That's pretty true?
True. In fact, it is true of the television industry, and really, as I told you, I'm amazed by it. I'm not quite sure how it happened, except that my wife and I got here in 1980 when it was still pretty much a cow town. There was no Park Meadows, there was no Lodo. In fact, whenever there was a murder in Denver, we drove straight to this location because this is where the body always was, as you may recall. This was a big warehouse district and a lot of crime, and now look at the Renaissance. But it's a very special place, and we just decided it was a great place to stay, and we wanted to raise kids here.
I mean, I understand people want to stay here, but in the media, you don't stay here.
Don't always get to.
You know, this is I mean, every time you get a new program director, and you're out, and then you get the new set, and you go.
Right.
Now, tell me a little bit. Channel 9 has always been the news leader in Colorado ever since I was a kid, way before 1980.
Right.
And it's managed to stay. You don't have to suck up to them. You're retiring. You don't. You know, you can say whatever you like. They can't take your pension anymore. But what was different about Channel 9?
Well, it was just it's this remarkable place that's always had a very strong local identity and a very deep bench. When I got here, it was Ed Sardella and Mike Landis, Stormy Rotman.
Ward Lucas and Paula Woodward. You were always terrified if they were going to follow you home. They were the investigative people, you know, and they were terrific at what they did. And Mike Nolan and Carl Akers. And oh my God, Carl Akers.
Carl Akers, yes, yeah, just marvelous people. And they've always had a very deep bench, and they cultivated that. They looked for a specific kind of person and a particular kind of journalist, and they were kind of a homogenous thing in the newsroom, but very unlike the rest of the industry. And their journalism also very unlike other journalism.
Also, the branding of Channel 9, everything. I went by and there was a park bench, and it was Bench 9. Give me a break. Bench 9.
9 who care, 9 wants to know.
You're an old 9 in the men's room.
9 cares, Colorado shares. I mean, it is a brand, and locally
what was it like when you
got there? Well, I was 28, 29 years old, and frankly, I thought that I had landed in Geezerville, because here's Carl and Bill Custer and Stormy, and even Ed and Mike. I mean, you know, and I used to tease Ed all the time because I was the 6 a.m. news anchor. I would ask Ed, so Ed, how you doing? How's the heart? And Ed would always look at me and he'd say, the hours will get you long before the Grim Reaper gets me. But I couldn't believe it. It was a place that I thought was maybe getting long in the tooth, and maybe the run was coming to an end. No one ever guessed it would last this long. But about 4 or 5 years ago, I was wrapping up the 10 o'clock show with Adele, and we were sitting there in the studio, and I said, you know, Adele, I was looking around today, and I just realized that after all these years, I might be the oldest employee in the newsroom. And Adele looked at me and she says, Mark, that was 5 years ago. So I thought, well, gee, maybe I better start planning an exit.
Now, local news is different, and it's not always news. I mean, you got a half an hour, and there might be 3 minutes of news there.
Right.
I have never seen a place that is more weather obsessed than Denver.
That's right.
I mean, it's just obscene. Now, people say, well, it's from being an agricultural place. No. And it's because of you jerks.
Right, it's us.
Every time there is a snowflake, you run out and with your parkas on.
Run for your life.
Run, and you go, and anything that looks like snow, you jump in front of it.
Right.
And even though there's nobody there.
Yep.
Couldn't you just put that on a loop and just pull it every few weeks?
That actually started in 1982. In the blizzard of '82.
I remember.
When we had 36 to 38 inches of snow. And I was brand new here, too.
And Mayor McNichols lost his job.
He did,
over
yes,
it,
because the McNichols administration, as you recall, had terrible problems removing all the snow. They put me in a live truck, which is a metal can, as you know, in the middle of I-25. There was no traffic, and I was out there for 18 hours That's where that was my first experience. But the viewership for that was, they were Super Bowl numbers, just virtually unparalleled. It was a remarkable
I've heard this
thing.
from everybody I've ever talked to in the news that says, we hate doing the weather reports, we hate running out there when it's snowing, but you see the spike.
Right. It's like a car chase in LA. It's the snowstorms in Denver. Everyone turns on the TV to watch it. And you know, they do arrive somewhat unexpectedly sometimes, and the forecast here can change on a dime, so you never know. But it has gotten to an extreme. We'll all admit it freely.
One of the things I hate the most. What do you hate the most? Come on, you're leaving. What is the part of the gig that just stinks?
Oh, about actually doing the television.
About doing the job.
Well, actually the hours. It would have to be the hours. There's no such thing as an 8-hour day in television. They're all 10-hour days and 12-hour days. And then when something significant happens, it can turn into, you know, several days of days. So probably the hours are the worst. But at Channel 9, my colleagues are all wonderful people.
Oh, wonderful people.
They are. They
people,
truly are. I mean, we're all
Again,
good friends. And
they can't take your pension. There's nothing they can do.
I know, and I mean this from the heart. They're some of the smartest people in television. You know, even the management chain, many of whom are people now who are on the corporate side of the company who started at Channel 9.
Patty Dennis.
Patty Dennis.
Patty Dennis is a fixture of Colorado news.
Yes, she is.
I mean, she's been in charge of 9 News for I don't know how long.
After Roger Ogden, she is the smartest television executive you have ever met. And I owe her nothing. Patty, honestly, as you know, I owe you nothing. But the truth is,
because she's watching this, you're not answering my question. What's the worst part? Not the hours.
Well,
come on.
The hours are
Give me
terrible.
Something more juicy.
I hate the makeup. I hate the makeup. I hate.
How do you like HD?
Well, you know what? HD. That's a great story. HD, when they first plugged it in at Channel 9, Roger Ogden and Mark Cornett, a bunch of our executives, they went into the control room and they put Ed and Ward and Paula and I all on a set, and they threw on the cameras. And they were all standing there looking at this image of all their senior employees on this HD screen. And Roger Ogden was the one who said, "We're dead. We'll never survive HD." And then came skin touring technology. It's probably on your cameras as well. If you don't have it,
I'm so beautiful, I don't need it.
Well, that could be.
I don't even know what it is.
You're naturally beautiful, so yeah, that's right.
The news has also changed. When I was a kid, when you got here in the 80s, there was a 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock news, and then there was the 10 o'clock news before Johnny Carson. And that probably had a lot to do with it, too. You guys weren't in front of Carson, but you were in front of something else. And
MASH, then came MASH.
Right, and all that other good stuff.
Yeah.
And now it's constant because you guys have 2 channels, and then Channel 2 and 31 work together, and there's news at 5 and then 6 and then at 7 and this and that. And now online it's constant. It's just constant. Can there really be journalism, real journalism? I miss the days of Adam Schrager, who was down at the Capitol doing stuff. Paula Woodward, you mentioned. I mean, oh my God, she broke stories. If you see her walking to you, you hope she walks by.
Yes, exactly right. Yes.
And I don't see that as much anymore because there is a burn and turn mentality.
Yes.
It seems.
Deadline pressures are a lot more extreme, and Patty and some of our other news executives of Channel 9, they're trying to change that trend. We have a dedicated I-team at Channel 9 that they spend months in story development, so they're trying to get back to the more traditional journalism. But you're right, it is a very difficult thing programming 7.5 hours of news a day as we do at Channel 9 to raise the level of the journalism, to raise the bar as you have indicated. But it's something that we're trying to. We work harder every day trying to get back to the old school journalism.
Are the numbers as good as they were now that there's 500 channels of talk and news?
No. Back in the day of Sardella and Landis and Stormy and Mike Nolan, there was no cable television, and they would own 55 to 60% of all the sets in Denver every night. Incredible. And now that piece of the pie is much smaller. Incredible competition, 150 channels. So no. Not as profitable, and the audiences aren't as large. And now everyone is trying not to go the way of the newspapers in our business. We're trying to capture the millennials. We're trying to figure out how to aim at a younger audience and garner new viewers.
And millennials don't watch commercials.
No, they don't.
Well, and you guys,
they don't. They do watch news, but you're right. They
and
don't
every
watch
2 years, the
commercials.
election cycle comes. fills you guys full of cash, and off you go.
Still a cash cow.
All right, so what about these damn kids? All right, so Kyle Clark sat here for a while. I bugged him about being able to read. Dyslexics could never be newscasters because
that's a rough road.
Yeah. The workers untied today. Oh no, I forget. So, do you see yourself in these kids as they come in, or is it a different thing? What's the advice? What is the advice you'd give to somebody who wants to have 37 years in a profession?
In television.
Yeah.
I tell them all, this is exactly what I tell them. First of all, I tell them all to save their money because like an athlete, your career could be over in one contract or less because a lot of it depends on who has audience appeal and who doesn't. But I tell them they have to be the person that their newsroom needs at any given moment. They have to fit into what the newsroom needs. And these days, there's a lot of digital content and social media, a lot of technical ability. You have to remain true to your journalism, but you have to see what it is you need to do to be the person your newsroom needs you to be at any given moment.
Is it really journalism? Let me be honest. There was a time, Morley Safer would come in. Journalism, all right? I get that. How best to plant my petunias is not journalism. What the Bronco cheerleaders will or will not be wearing. That's not journalism.
Right. No.
It's infotainment at best, isn't it?
There is a portion of it that might be labeled that, but there is still a large portion of our newscast that is dedicated to really the coverage of the stories of the day. One problem might be that because there's just so much news in Denver that we all cover the same news, but there is an effort, particularly at Channel 9, to go beyond that. We've always been a station that expanded the story, and we still are that product, and it may be the reason that we're still number one, that we are those people and we are that product.
What are you going to do now? I mean, you get free meals all over town. Everybody knows who you are.
Well,
now, what are you going to do?
It's really good to be me. But I tell everybody I'm doing the INGs. I'm going to do a lot of skiing. I'm a big skier. I never have enough time for that. I love golfing. I never have enough time for that. And I do a lot of grandkidding. Now I have 3 grandchildren. They're 8, 6, and 4. My daughter's out in California.
And one of them is going to be the new lead next week, new head anchor.
It could be. Yeah. Jim Beneman across town loves to email me when I'm on the air on a given night, and he says, "So you're working with your niece tonight?" That's Jim. Not that the same can't be said about him, but yeah, they're very young.
Thank you, and thank you for 37 years of good stuff.
Thank you. It's great to see you again.
Stay tuned.